But after millions of years, the world ran out of worthy prey, and our immortal hunter got seriously bored. He traded ancient plains for concrete jungles, but the thrill was completely gone. Then, just as he thinks eternal life is a total drag, the universe sends him a little pick-me-up. And by pick-me-up, I mean a city-destroying monster that just crashed the party. Look at that smile. He hasn't felt this alive since the last ice age. The suit comes off, and the primal warrior is officially back in business. This new challenger isn't just for show. It's swatting military hardware out of the sky like flies. So naturally, our guy decides to face it head-on with nothing but his bare fists. But as he gets closer, he sees something impossible in the creature's eyes, a flicker of an ancient rival. This isn't just a random monster, it's a ghost from a past he thought was long extinct. This isn't just muscle, it's a body perfected over 3 million years for one thing: total domination. Because our immortal hunter is actually Mu, the #1 ranked god in the entire divine realm. But even at the top, ruling a peaceful earth is the definition of cosmic boredom. And when the strongest god gets restless, he doesn't just sigh. He kicks his throne so hard the entire universe gets the message. That signal blasts all the way to the divine realm, the central hub for every god in existence. Suddenly, every minor deity is scrambling, wondering what just happened. Even the celestial beings are shook because they know exactly who's responsible. But one god isn't scared, he's just annoyed. Meet Lucifer, the second-ranked god, and apparently our boy's personal cosmic rival. And now we get the full story. Mu is so powerful he's literally run out of enemies. 1,000 years without a decent fight, the ultimate first-world problem for a god of war. But then, a dangerous thought crosses his mind, the kind that changes everything. His solution? If you can't find a fair fight, just nerf yourself, and he thinks it's the smartest idea ever. And that's the master plan. Ditch his divine body, become immortal, and finally get the challenge he's been craving. So he calls out for someone named Yong to put this insane plan into action. And this little guy swoops in, looking like a pet lizard with wings. But don't let the size fool you. This thing lands with enough force to shatter the ground beneath it. Turns out Yong isn't a pet. He's a full-blown dragon warrior built like a tank. And get this. This absolute unit isn't a general or a rival. He's Mu's personal secretary. Mu casually drops his resignation notice on his secretary, effective immediately. But Yong isn't having it and whips out some serious magic to chain his boss down. He tries to physically stop the most powerful being in the universe, a bold, if slightly suicidal, career move. Because apparently, you can't just ghost a mandatory all-hands meeting with every god in existence. Mu's response is to literally drag his panicked secretary across the floor like a forgotten piece of luggage. While Yong has a full-blown meltdown, Mu's patience is clearly wearing thin. And with a single flex, those divine chains are shattered into a million pieces. He then gives his secretary a simple choice: let him go or become the first casualty of his vacation. Suddenly, Yong is the most supportive employee of the millennium, wishing him a safe trip with a terrified smile. And with that, the god of war officially clocks out, ready to descend to Earth. He's literally window shopping for a new life among the mortals, and he tunes into the global misery channel, honing in on one guy who just cursed out God himself. With a wicked grin, he decides this guy is the lucky winner of a divine intervention he never asked for. While Mu is thrilled about his vacation, his secretary is already mourning his career and sanity. He briefly considers explaining the fine print of this cosmic soul swap, then decides it's way more fun not to. So here's the plan. He's leaving his god-tier body behind for some random human to pilot. Yong absolutely loses it because if Mu's new mortal body dies, the god of war gets erased from existence forever. But Mu just scoffs because to him, the risk of total annihilation is just part of the fun. With a casual "be right back," he ignores the final desperate pleas and starts the transfer. And in a flash of divine energy, the #1 god rips his own soul out to start a new game on hard mode. And just as Mu's soul leaves his body, we cut to a random hero finally defeating the Demon King. He saved the world, gotten the glory, and is about to live happily ever after. But then we see the most brutal plot twist of all, the word end. Because this entire epic adventure was just a story some guy was watching on his phone. And meet that guy, Lee Ho, the exact same 17-year-old our god just picked for a body swap. But after finishing the fantasy, he doesn't just close the app. He smashes his phone to pieces because for him, all hope is officially gone. This isn't just teenage angst, he's on a rooftop ready to end it all. And this is the exact moment Mu heard him curse the world, sealing his fate. With a final goodbye, he steps into the void, completely unaware he's about to get a divine roommate. As he plummets, he has one last message for the heavens, and he screams the exact words that will rewrite his entire existence. The ground rushes up to meet him, and in an instant, everything goes dark. His world shatters into a million pieces of pure agony. But just as his life fades, a new one forces its way in, and it belongs to a god. Meanwhile, in the divine realm, some poor soul wakes up in a body that is definitely not his, and his new welcome party is a 10-story tall dragon who looks very, very confused. The god's secretary and the new god have the exact same question for each other. But back on Earth, Mu is already flexing in his new mortal shell, absolutely thrilled with the downgrade. With a cocky grin, he promises to return, leaving his terrified secretary to deal with the cosmic mess he just created. But while his secretary panics, Mu is already gone, leaving him to scream into the void. And his grand vacation starts with his new body making a very permanent impression on the pavement. He barely gets a second to settle in before realizing his new ride is already totaled. For any normal human, this is game over, a one-way ticket to the afterlife. But Mu isn't just a god of war, he's a master of the human machine. 3 million years of training gave him total control over every cell, every fiber, every single function. And he's about to perform the ultimate party trick, manually restarting a dead heart. With a single jolt of will, the boy who just died takes his first breath all over again. He literally rewires his own circulatory system, patching up fatal wounds from the inside out. And his first thought isn't about survival, it's that he's actually having fun for the first time in centuries. For the first time in a million years, the god of war has found the perfect playground. Time for a quick download of this kid's entire miserable life. First order of business, check out his new headquarters. But he immediately realizes this mortal body is pathetically slow, so naturally, he just parkours his way home like a divine acrobat. And his new palace is a rundown shack in the worst part of town. After a few hours, he's got the full picture of Liho's existence. Turns out the kid is a total loner. No family, no friends, no one to notice the change in management. His life is a checklist of misery, broke, isolated, and stuck in a place called school. And it's at that school where he finds the real reason this kid's life was a living nightmare. The kid wasn't just an outcast. He was a walking target for a pack of high school predators. But for a god of war, a pre-packaged set of enemies isn't a problem. It's a welcome gift. He wastes no time getting acquainted with his new body's capabilities. But he quickly discovers this mortal shell has some serious hardware limitations. Even a simple exercise leaves him with a feeling he hasn't experienced in millennia: pain. And you know what? He is absolutely loving every second of it. The next day, the school is a full-blown crime scene, and everyone is asking what happened on that rooftop. And who strolls in without a care in the world? The kid who was supposed to be the victim. The authorities are sweating bullets because the only person of interest is acting like he owns the place. And in the middle of class, he proves he's not just a new student, he's a predator hiding in plain sight. And just like that, the god of war locks onto his first piece of prey. The head bully is completely oblivious, annoyed by what he thinks is just his usual punching bag. He calls him by an insulting nickname, not realizing he's talking to a literal god. But the kid who used to flinch now meets his gaze with the cold calm of an executioner. The old power dynamic is about to be completely rewritten, one step at a time. And for a split second, the bully sees the monster hiding behind the boy's eyes. He tries to play it cool, falling back on old insults to hide his sudden fear. So he does what he's always done, and makes the biggest mistake of his life. And then he drops the bombshell, the dark secret he's been using to control the real Liho. But this bully just broke rule number 1. You don't get to land the first hit on the god of war. Because for Mu, a fight has one simple unwritten rule. It doesn't officially start until the other guy is stupid enough to throw the first punch. And after 1,000 years of waiting, he's more than happy to oblige. This bully just officially consented to his own annihilation. And with a bloody grin, the god of war accepts the terms and conditions. The bully sees a smile where there should be fear and realizes he's not fighting a kid anymore. So Mu introduces him to 3 million years of combat experience, all in one hit. The impact doesn't just send him flying, it shatters his entire understanding of reality. But the recoil sends a jolt through his new body, and for the first time he feels the exquisite agony of being weak. And just when the fun's getting started, the entire class and the teacher decide to crash the party. The teacher is screaming, the class is in chaos, but for Mu, this is just background noise. The bully tastes his own blood and realizes the rules of the game have just been rewritten. So he throws a tantrum and rushes in, completely forgetting who he's dealing with. But Mu meets his rage with a wall of ice-cold calm, blocking the hit without flinching. He realizes this fragile body can't dodge, so he decides to switch from defense to something far more interesting. He's not just counting punches, he's activating a combat sequence this world has never seen. He takes the hits not because he has to, but because he's gathering data for the perfect counter. Then, as a punch connects, he remembers a forgotten rule about this planet's hidden energy. His opponent is screaming, completely lost in his own rage, blind to the storm he's just awakened. He's battered and admits his options are limited. But for a god of war, limited is more than enough. He realizes he's got no magic and a body made of glass, so he decides to get creative. If you can't punch, you use the one weapon that's always available, your own thick skull. The bully learns a quick lesson in physics. Fist bones versus forehead. Forehead always wins. And just like that, the predator's main weapon is officially out of commission. Mu just smirks because to him this isn't a fight, it's a biology lesson. But this isn't about winning one exchange, it's about total dismantlement. He neutralizes the other hand before the bully can even process the pain. Then he introduces him to a classic weak point he learned 1,000,000 years ago, the solar plexus. The bully's entire system shuts down, leaving him completely defenseless. And with his opponent wide open, Mu prepares to deliver the final devastating lesson. He delivers a final brutal strike that completely resets the food chain. The bully is left kneeling, forced to look up at the boy he once terrorized. And with the former king down for the count, the rest of the class can only film the unbelievable aftermath. His lackeys are completely frozen, trying to process how their leader was just dismantled, because they all know this isn't the same kid they saw get pushed around just yesterday. But Mu isn't celebrating. He's just soaking in the silence after the storm. Because after the fight ends, there's a sensation he's been craving more than victory. It's the glorious, throbbing ache of a body that can actually get hurt. It's the metallic tang of blood, a taste he hasn't experienced in millennia. And as he savors every bit of it, a truly unhinged smile spreads across his face. He looks down at his handiwork and gives the most terrifying thank you in history. And then he leans in to leave a permanent personal signature on his new favorite toy. The lackeys can only stare in horror, realizing this isn't a high school fight, it's a feeding. He just wipes his mouth with a grin, because this is the most fun he's had in 1,000 years. And as the bully lies defeated, he's been given a mark that will never fade. Because this isn't the first time Mu has left his mark on an opponent. It's a twisted form of gratitude, a brand that says, you belong to me now. In the divine realm, it's called Mu's play, a mark of honor. But on Earth, it has a much darker name. And just like that, the legend of the second-year monster begins to spread through the school. But the story isn't just about a beatdown. There's a strange detail that has everyone talking. The school is buzzing with the news. The top dog got taken down by his favorite victim. And let's just say the bully's reign at the top of the food chain has been permanently revoked. Even the local wildlife seems to be celebrating the new world order. As the former king gets a VIP escort out of the building, the entire student body watches in stunned silence. But our god of war isn't hiding. He's admiring his work from the window like it's a masterpiece. And he gives his new plaything a casual, see you later, because this is far from over. His victory lap is cut short by a teacher who looks ready to breathe fire. In the office, he gets the standard lecture from a man who has no idea who he's yelling at. The teacher gets so worked up, he looks like he's about to make a very, very bad decision. But instead of fear, Mu gives him a look of pure ecstasy and practically begs him to throw the first punch. The teacher is completely stunned because the kid he's yelling at is practically vibrating with joy. He backs down immediately, hitting him with the classic bring your parents excuse to get him out of his office. Mu is genuinely disappointed. He was hoping for a fight, but instead he just gets an early dismissal. So he hits the streets, but this isn't a walk of shame, it's a strategic retreat. Because for a god of war, going home means it's time to return to base and start training. He realizes this new body is a fixer-upper, and he's got a lot of work to do if he wants to keep playing. But as he tries to access his old power, he hits a cosmic firewall. We get a quick lesson on mana, the fuel source for every god, hero, and monster in existence. It's the energy that creates hunters in one world and wizards in another, the very fabric of power. But on this backwater planet, the mana well is completely dry, leaving our god of war with 0 bars. He tries to tap into his divine arsenal, but on this planet, he's running on empty. But for a god of war, losing his ultimate weapons just means it's time to get creative with the basics. He's finally feeling the sweet exhaustion of a real fight and decides to call it a day. Meanwhile, back in the divine realm, the kid who was supposed to be gone for good just woke up. And his first move as a god? Trying to ride the terrified dragon secretary like a discount airline. He then tries to claim the legendary dragon as his starter pack for his new life as a hero. This kid genuinely believes he's been summoned as an isekai protagonist, and he's already making demands. He's not just happy to be alive, he's already planning his world domination tour with a greedy grin. But just as he's fantasizing about his new power, a real god senses that an imposter is on the throne. And his dream of being an overpowered hero is about to get a brutal reality check from a cosmic heavyweight. A new god just snatched our fake hero, and he does not look happy about the management change. He gives the kid a smile that promises anything but a happy ending, offering a one-way trip to a whole new world. And by new world, he means the personal hellscape of the second-ranked god, Lucifer. The new god marches in like he owns the place, ready to report the cosmic security breach. But Lucifer is already waiting, and you can feel the disapproval radiating off him. The god presents the terrified human soul, expecting praise for catching the imposter. But Lucifer shuts him down with a single word before he can even make his case. Undeterred, the god demands Lucifer open a gate to banish the human for good. And Lucifer hits him with a question that drips with pure, undiluted authority. Who gave you the right? The god's response? A grin that says, I did, and an open invitation to a fight he's sure he'll win. Lucifer's challenger isn't just confident, he's practically crying with joy at the thought of a divine brawl. And Lucifer is absolutely disgusted, seeing this as nothing more than a dumb display of brute force. He then completely disrespects the second-in-command, telling him to move aside like he's just an intern. But he walks face first into a cosmic no trespassing sign, a barrier that automatically pops up when a god breaks the rules. And Lucifer proves why he's number 2, shattering the unbreakable barrier with a single contemptuous punch. But for a split second, even he seems baffled by this new god's sheer unyielding audacity. The challenger then scolds the second most powerful god, asking why he's such a cosmic killjoy. So he ignores the second-in-command completely, grabs our terrified human, and decides to handle this his own way. He opens a portal to who knows where and gives the kid a simple, terrifying command. Go in. And with a smug grin, he tells the kid his wish has been granted, offering a one-way ticket to a new world, without his dragon. He then crushes the kid's isekai dreams by telling him the legendary dragon is off limits. But his final wish for an easy power-up is met with a one-way trip to who knows where. With the human gone, he scoffs, completely disgusted by the kid's desire for unearned power. He then leaves the kid in Young's care, casually announcing he's got places to be. But Lucifer is left stewing, his authority completely undermined by this new, chaotic god. And now we get the backstory. Lucifer wasn't just number 2, he was the original demon king of his own world. His ambition knew no bounds. He literally challenged the god of his own reality. And he didn't just show up to fight, he came prepared to commit full-blown deicide. With a single universe-shaking blow, he prepared to dethrone a god. And here's the kicker. He didn't just challenge God, he won. He didn't just beat God, he took his throne and started a hostile takeover of the entire divine realm. He became the undisputed king, the absolute ruler of every god in existence. For a time, he was the definition of power, invincible, supreme, a legend among legends. He wasn't just a god, he was a cosmic event, the final boss of the universe. He was on top of the world until our boy Mu showed up and kicked him off the mountain. And now, all that rage is focused on one target, the god who's currently slumming it as a high school kid. Meanwhile, the god who just wrecked Lucifer's day has been reduced to a grumpy purple blob, hitching a ride on a very stressed-out dragon. And with a grin that promises nothing but chaos, he zips off to find his own brand of trouble. Back on Earth, the former kingpin is stewing in a hospital bed, swearing revenge on the kid he still thinks is a loser. He's not just angry, he's making a call, because if he can't win the fight, he's ready to start a war. He's not just calling a friend, he's dialing up the local heavyweights to settle the score. And while our god is enjoying his vacation, his next opponent is already training for a war he doesn't know is coming. Meet Kang Cheol, a national boxing champion who doesn't just win fights, he ends careers. But even this human weapon gets a chill down his spine, like he can already sense a new predator in his territory. He doesn't know it yet, but a call is about to come in that will drag him into a high school drama with cosmic stakes. But the call isn't for the champ, it's for his underling who's about to take the bait. And this isn't just some random goon. Guak Cheol is a seasoned fighter in his own right. The bully lays it on thick, offering gifts and favors because he knows exactly how to weaponize other people's fists. And with a grin that promises a world of hurt, Guak Cheol tells him to name the target. Back in class, the calm before the storm settles in, completely unaware that a professional hunter is about to be unleashed on their school. The next day, the classroom is a powder keg and everyone is walking on eggshells. But all eyes are on the new king, who sits there like the whispers are just background music. The students can't believe it. The school's top predator got completely declawed by his favorite chew toy. And just like that, the fear is gone, replaced by open mockery for the fallen tyrant. But the bully's #1 enforcer just walked in, and he is not happy with the new management. He roars at the class, demanding respect for his defeated boss and challenging anyone who disagrees. But then, a new voice cuts through the noise, telling him to sit down and shut up. And he completely loses it, because nobody has ever dared to talk back to him before. He grabs a chair, ready to make an example out of her, proving he's just as unhinged as his boss. But just as he's about to strike, the door creaks open and the real monster finally arrives. And the teacher's first move isn't to deal with the chaos, but to single out the one girl who actually stood up to the bully. The class president tries to brush it off, but she's just been put on the spot in front of everyone. He then gives her a private summons, asking her to stay after class for a chat. But it's not a reward for her bravery. He's bribing her with a recommendation letter to do his dirty work and check on the now-missing Lee Ho. She is clearly not thrilled about being sent on a wellness check for the school's newest problem child. So she heads to the worst part of town, knocking on a door that looks like it leads straight to a tetanus shot. When nobody answers, she tries the knob and learns rule #1 of any horror movie. The door is always unlocked. But curiosity gets the best of her, and she cracks open the door to a world of trouble she is not prepared for. And she immediately finds our hero, passed out cold on the floor in a scene straight out of a crime drama. Her first thought isn't, is he okay? It's that she just stumbled upon a dead body. The next thing he knows, he's waking up in the last place a god of war ever wants to be, a hospital. Turns out, even a divine being can't just shrug off a total system crash. He snaps awake with a jolt, his divine self roaring back to life inside his mortal shell. But he's not in his dingy apartment, and he's got a very unexpected and very asleep roommate. He's completely disoriented, trying to figure out how he ended up in this sterile white prison. Then he spots the IV and realizes these mortals have plugged him into some kind of strange life support. A foreign substance is being pumped directly into his veins, and for a god, that's usually a declaration of war. But this isn't an attack. It's a high-speed delivery of pure energy, and his battered body is loving it. He clenches his fist, feeling his mortal engine kick back into gear thanks to some primitive human science. And with a smug grin, he decides this planet might have some decent perks after all, right in front of his very concerned and still sleeping classmate. His classmate finally wakes up, only to see the guy she thought was dead laughing like a complete maniac. She tries to leave, but the teacher keeps calling, asking her to report on the school's #1 problem child. But then Moo sits up, realizing this girl is the reason he's not still passed out on his floor. He stops her with a question, but she's got zero time for a guy who was just in a coma. He's not making small talk, he's gathering intel on this new world, and his first priority is getting stronger. So he asks the one question no one expects from a hospital patient. Where's the nearest gym? She just stares at him, completely convinced that the fall didn't just break his body, it broke his brain. And then she hits him with the cold, hard truth of mortal life. You don't have money, right? So she points him to a free public park, and he immediately starts his divine training regimen on some rusty equipment. He's already pushing his new body to its limits, and he's loving every single second of the burn. He's checking out the local gym, and to a 3-million-year-old god, this rusty park equipment looks like futuristic alien tech. Because his last workout involved climbing mountains and wrestling boulders for fun. But he quickly realizes this mortal body is so weak, even a simple machine is a challenge. And just as he's getting started, his training session gets rudely interrupted by a projectile. And look who it is. The bully's lackey is back, and this time he brought his much scarier-looking cousin. The little goon is still fuming over his boss's defeat, screaming threats like he's got a chance. But Moo isn't listening to the noise. He just wants to know who was stupid enough to throw a rock at a god. The lackey proudly takes credit, then starts monologuing about the big, bad cousin he brought for backup. And Mu's response to that monologue is to deliver a punchline straight to his jaw. The lackey hits the pavement, screaming his lungs out, and the fight has officially begun. But Mu isn't angry. He's absolutely ecstatic because these amateurs just gave him the one thing he's been craving. But while our god is enjoying his first day on the job, his secretary is about to face a trial by fire. He's trying to run the mandatory all-hands meeting, but you can practically smell the fear coming off him. And his terrible acting job immediately gets the attention of the one god you do not want to annoy. Lucifer, the second in command, sees right through the charade and demands to know what's going on. Young immediately folds, promising he's just the messenger and begging not to be the target of that death glare. So he quickly reads the official memo from the absent king of the gods. And the message is basically a cosmic, "Don't call me unless you found a new final boss for me to fight." And Lucifer's response is to slam his fist down so hard he nearly shatters the entire conference table. He is absolutely fed up with this routine, and the fact that the number one god just ghosted the most important meeting in the universe is the final straw. Lucifer polls the room, asking if anyone else thinks the king of the gods going AWOL is a problem. He reminds them this isn't just a meeting, it's the one thing keeping the entire universe from falling apart. And the third-ranked god, a divine archer, backs him up, calling Mu's behavior a cosmic joke. Lucifer completely loses it, screaming that Mu's personal entertainment is about to crash the entire system. And he brings up the receipts, reminding them of the last time Mu tried to fix a problem he created. The god of Cyclops breaks out in a cold sweat, because he remembers exactly what happened to his homeworld. Flashback to 1,000 years ago, when a planet-eating horror show descended upon his people. This wasn't just any monster, it was a void creature, a cosmic nightmare named Shoggoth. And it didn't just attack the planet, it straight up devoured it like a midnight snack. But just as the world was being erased, Mu showed up not as a savior, but as a brawler who was thrilled to have found a new toy. Lucifer reveals Mu didn't just fight the monster, he let it eat part of a planet just to make the battle more interesting. And with that, the second in command makes a decision. Mu is no longer fit to be a god, and it's time for a change in management. The dragon secretary clutches the resignation letter, realizing this isn't just a meeting. It's the beginning of a full-blown celestial coup. And he's praying his boss comes back before Lucifer burns the entire divine realm to the ground. Back on Earth, the lackey is screaming his head off, completely blindsided by the kid he thought was an easy target. So he plays his final card, revealing his backup isn't just a cousin, he's a professional boxer. But the boxer, Guak Chiol, is more intrigued than angry, sizing up the kid who moves with impossible speed, and Mu gives him an answer that sends a chill down his spine. "Sports? I don't do sports. I fight." The pro just laughs, spitting out his lollipop and writing him off as some delusional teenager. And with a grin, he gets into a fighting stance, ready to give our god the brawl he's been begging for. The pro throws down the gauntlet, ready to teach this kid a lesson in pain. And he lands a picture-perfect punch that should have ended the fight right there. But the boxer's confidence instantly shatters, because his opponent didn't even try to block. He's left wondering what kind of monster he just punched, because Mu saw the attack coming from a mile away. And he didn't just take the hit, he welcomed it with the grin of a complete lunatic. The impact sends a jolt through his system, a sensation he's been craving for centuries. He licks the blood from his lips and asks the pro if this is the best he's got. Then he awkwardly mimics the boxer's stance like a child learning to walk. The pro scoffs, thinking he's just fighting a copycat, completely unaware he's facing a god who learns at the speed of light. So he throws a punch that doesn't just copy the form, it perfects it. And the pro stumbles back, completely baffled by the impossible force behind the hit. But Mu just grins, asking for pointers like a student who just aced a test he never studied for. Because he didn't just learn how to punch, he remembered the secret to absolute power. At the moment of impact, he flexed every muscle, turning his arm into a biological cannon. The recoil shreds his arm, but the searing pain is just a welcome-back gift. And he breaks into a euphoric grin, because this feeling is what he's been missing for 1,000,000 years. This is a real fight, not like his old days against cosmic chumps who'd shatter on contact. But this fragile body can't keep up, so he decides to grab the nearest equalizer he can find. He knows this game has rules, so he wraps his fists, preparing to play by this world's brutal physics. The lackey starts screaming about the rules, but Mu tells him this isn't a game anymore. So the pro boxer goes for a finishing blow, convinced this fight is already over. But Mu meets his fist head-on, stopping a career-ending punch like it's a gentle tap. The boxer is furious because this kid's sloppy defense should have been a joke. But to a god of war, this professional's best moves are fast, accurate, and laughably simple. Because he's not just watching the punches, he's reading the opponent's body like a blueprint. Every twitch of a muscle tells him exactly where the next attack is going to land. The pro unleashes his signature move, a haymaker designed to shatter bone. But Mu doesn't just block it, he meets it with a counter that rewrites the laws of physics. And the boxer's hand pays the price, because he just picked a fight with a biological supercomputer. And he finds it hilarious that both the pro and the punk have the exact same look of pure, unadulterated panic. So he delivers a lesson in advanced physics, using the pro's face as the chalkboard. And just like that, the professional fighter is officially retired, leaving his backup completely speechless. With the main event over, Mu turns his attention to the opening act. And with a grin that could curdle milk, he asks if he's ready for his turn. The kid's entire life flashes before his eyes, and none of it looks good. He begs for mercy, but he's screaming at a predator who's just decided it's feeding time. But Mu is genuinely disappointed, because a toy that breaks this easily is no fun at all, so he offers him a way out, a simple surrender to end the whole thing. But rule number 2 of fighting a god is, never ever trust the mercy he offers. The lackey finally tries to surrender, but Mu is way past the point of accepting apologies. So he delivers a final, definitive lesson on why you never ever start a fight you can't finish. The kid finally admits defeat, but the words are barely a whisper from his completely broken pride. But Mu isn't listening anymore. He's just admiring his handiwork with cold satisfaction. And he gives the kid a twisted smile, genuinely impressed by how long it took him to break. With his warm-up officially over, he leaves the human wreckage behind without a second glance. The lackey can only curse his name, finally understanding he didn't just lose a fight, he met a demon. Back at his rundown base, Mu finally has a moment to himself after a very productive day. And as the adrenaline fades, he comes to a very important conclusion about his new life. This mortal shell is a fantastic playground, but the toys break far too easily. He looks at his arm and realizes this body is so fragile, even winning comes with a price. But that's the whole point. He's not just fighting, he's feeling, and he never wants it to stop. He decides it's time to order some divine takeout, remembering a little something he asked his secretary to prepare. But when he tries to make the call, all he gets is cosmic static. He's completely cut off, a god trying to use a phone with no signal and no battery. And to understand why, we have to jump back a few days to the divine realm right in Lucifer's backyard. Because it turns out, Mu isn't the only god who decided to take a vacation. The god who challenged Lucifer also hitched a ride on the universe's most stressed-out dragon, and his review of Earth is identical. Great fun, but the mortal bodies are pathetically weak. So he puts in an order for the exact same power-up Mu is trying to summon, a recovery magic orb. These are the cheat codes of the universe, items packed with pure magic for gods on the go. On any normal planet, they're as common as candy, the standard issue power-up for divine beings. But on a backwater world like Earth, getting one is like winning the cosmic lottery. Throughout all of human history, only a handful of mortals ever got their hands on one. And those lucky few were worshipped as living legends, while the actual gods were busy playing intergalactic patty cake. The dragon secretary, already overworked, promises to have the power-up ready for this other vacationing god. But when he brings up the most important meeting in the universe, the god just blows him off. He smugly announces he's already taken care of his responsibilities, like a kid who did one chore and expects a parade. And his preparation is a crumpled-up resignation letter he hands to the most stressed-out dragon in existence. Then he casually announces he's quitting his divine duties to go become the king of Earth, leaving the entire divine realm on the verge of collapse. And with a grin that screams, "I quit," he officially becomes the divine realm's biggest problem. Back in the present, Lucifer gets the one piece of intel he's been waiting 1,000 years to hear. The dragon secretary confirms the king is officially off the grid, completely unaware he's just handed Lucifer the keys to the kingdom. And in that moment, the second-in-command's rage turns into pure, unadulterated ambition. Because with the king away, the former demon lord sees his once-in-a-millennium chance to reclaim his throne. So he unleashes a forbidden art, a spell with a name that promises anything but a happy ending. But his first target isn't the empty throne, it's the one person loyal to the absent king. The dragon is instantly overwhelmed, caught in a surprise attack from the realm's second most powerful being. But this isn't just a secretary. He's a legendary dragon, and he's not going down without a fight. He demands to know why he's being attacked, completely baffled by his boss's sudden betrayal. The dragon secretary lays it all on the line, accusing Lucifer of declaring war on the king of the gods himself. But Lucifer's not just starting a war, he's staging a hostile takeover of the entire divine realm. He's not asking for permission. He's announcing the new world order, and the dragon is his first prisoner. And with a look that could freeze hell over, he makes it official. The celestial civil war has begun. But you don't become the king's right-hand dragon by being a pushover. He unleashes an attack that could level a city. A full power blast meant to erase the second-in-command from existence. And Lucifer just bats it away like it's a pesky fly, proving the power gap is an entire universe wide. The deflected shot obliterates a nearby planet, and Lucifer doesn't even flinch. But as the shockwave hits, the third-ranked god just smirks and throws up a shield, completely unbothered. Because she's not a bystander, she's on Team Lucifer, and this coup has some very powerful backers. The dragon is completely surrounded, but he's about to remind them why you never corner a legendary beast. So he unleashes his true form, shedding his secretary disguise for something far more monstrous. And just like that, the polite secretary is gone, replaced by a walking apocalypse. But Lucifer isn't impressed, promising the dragon that after this, his master is next on the list. But the dragon makes a promise of his own. Lucifer's rebellion dies right here, right now.